are these people?
A 7-day free trial, and you get all of it's not the entirety of the WhatsApp messages, and that's what this COVID and with this recent quote COVID inquiry is about, which is what I'll get to. But they even have a full diagram of what they call as the lockdown files. Now, like, why this isn't of interest to New York Times or any of these other big outlets, I don't know. It seems to be like no one else is covering this. I don't know if they have like exclusive rights or anything like that. That doesn't seem to be the case. This is explosive, in my opinion. But Matt Hancock, the man in charge of the Department of Health for most of the pandemic, quote unquote, Mr. Vaccine.
And this is in UK. This is the NHS, right?
Yeah. If we need any memory of who Matt Hancock was. This was the man who got caught doing a little bit of the hanky panky in very early in the pandemic after they established those quite draconian, not necessarily draconian, but bullshit 6-foot distancing rules that we all know was made up and based on nothing. And we have messages of the whole breakdown. They kind of talk like a high school locker room, and it's kind of hilarious. Some of them use emojis sometimes, but ultimately, I just want to bring this out because this was pretty much the death.
And this was all done through WhatsApp. They were trying to be discreet.
So they achieved all Matt Hancock's messages and Boris Johnson's messages, and there's some other messages that they have and they haven't released yet, but they told them like not to or something, and they're trying to. So like they actually came out with a podcast like recently, like a week ago, like detailing the whole thing. So we need to remember how Matt Hancock lost his career. It was because he was doing a little bit of the Matt hanky panky in the UK Parliament room.
Dumb.
Now, how much do you think she got paid to get this job? Because I mean, it seems like.
Oh, you think she was an op?
Well, I mean, do you see this guy? I don't know.
Hey, man, like
no, it's definitely the
people
money.
are attracted to power.
It's 100% access, and power. It's that power dynamic can definitely do a thing.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's what I was gonna. Okay, I'm glad Rivera put that out because I just wanted to say really quick, like WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. Like, why didn't they use Signal? That's like the first like.
I think isn't it like encrypted in some way? I don't know.
I mean, it is, but like, if it like anyway, I never trust an app that's encrypted that's owned by a mega corporation. I feel like that defeats the purpose. Like,
but like a lot of like what these tell us is that these people knew the whole time that the lockdowns were terrible. They even predicted in like 10 million more like married off like women to in like poor countries, which is crazy. And even they have a between Simon Cates, who is the cabinet secretary, who warns Matt Hancock about the terrible other outcomes day before the shutdown. And this is what he's saying here. I think we have to be brutally honest with people. Full lockdowns optimize our society/economy for tackling the COVID R rate, but they are terrible for some other outcomes: non-COVID health, jobs, education, social cohesion, mental health, etc. That's why, even if we have to do something tougher now in the short term, the only way we can get through this is long-term through a balanced approach, which everyone needs to play their part in keeping people safe, hands, face-based, isolate. Mass testing or a vaccine might significantly alter the calculus in our favor, but if they don't work, we fail to deliver them properly. We can only rely on the behavior of everyone to get us through. Even with mass testing, we can build the most amazing distribution system on earth, but if people don't isolate or take other precautions, if they take the positive test, it is all for naught. There was even a case of like this young 14-year-old who had like she had a skull injury. She had a piece of her skull that needed, and she was denied treatment because she had a fucking piece of her skull missing, dude. Because of COVID, it's insane. I sent Emma to an with the 4 deaths of the pressure of the pediatric beds has been huge.
Did she even test positive, or was it because that it was just during lockdowns?
It was they even. I mean, we even have articles about the quote unquote cancer bomb where they were denying stage 1 cancer patients because of the COVID lockdowns.
That's wild.
And it's one of the most like the UK had probably one of the most disastrous like pandemic policy in quite some time. And I'm going to be careful. I obviously I'm going to be careful with my words here. We love the jab.
Yeah,
the jab
yeah.
is safe and effective.
Safe and effective.
And pretty much we can say that as like parody at this point. The jab is safe and effective. We love the vax, and it's funny to say the jab is safe and effective.
Well, I mean, ever since I heard that was like what Jimmy Dore says and gets a pass, that's why I say
it. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's the code. Maybe that's the way in. I don't know.
Just say safe and effective.
He
didn't
seem to get a strike, so I don't know.
When I get a strike, we can go. But Jimmy Dore gets to say it.
You call up the YouTube CEO, but Jimmy Dore said it. I still try to be careful because some of these. I mean, I'm not saying Jimmy is, but like Breaking Points and like The Hill, they're on the corporate algorithm. And they probably get some special treatment for sure. TYT does for sure, 100%.
So can you imagine for a second the political calculus to be like, there's a person with a terminal brain injury who could die tonight if we don't get them treatment, but we need to keep them locked down so they don't die of COVID?
It's crazy. It's absolutely
like what?
And we don't even have to talk about we know that these lockdowns, there's no sense of saying that these lockdowns had any effect besides the opposite. They did way more harm than good. And that's proven alone by the massive amount, the huge spike in mental health cases in young children and all these lapses in education. We've set back kids 2 years, essentially. A lot of kids are having reading and learning they're developing learning disabilities.
I remember this when I was still married, that my ex's daughter did like at home learning, and I knew she was behind. But it's like you look at these teachers trying to run Zoom calls for 30 students. It's like,
what are they going to do?
What are they going to do
when you mandate the school to shut down? Like, what do you think is going to happen to these kids? And especially for it is tragic, absolutely fucking tragic. And if you are angry about that, well, then Matt Hancock has apology to serve to you.
Yeah, I'm also on with Snow Hambo on the excess deaths was like through the roof.
Throw my screen on.
Oh yeah, sorry. It won't just auto do that, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I am profoundly sorry for the impact that.
Oh, he's profoundly sorry now.
It's okay now.
I'm profoundly sorry for each death that has occurred.
Now, what he has to do this in front of a bunch of UK families who were drastically affected by this lockdown and all of these terrible fucking policies. He has to look them in the eye and say, well, I'm sorry. And that's it. What?
And I also understand why for some it will be hard to take that apology from me. I understand that.
You think? You think it's hard after the amount of kids and the amount of shit that oh my god, it's this.
I get guys, it. Did he end up resigning?
Yeah, because of that scandal.
Okay,
The scandal we showed earlier, where he got caught.
Okay.
He probably paid his secretary a couple $1,000 to hook up with him in the office.
Still
Probably some fucking
apologized.
weird
Jesus
fetish
fucking
this guy's
Christ.
got with his fucking bald head and his fucking stupid face. So anyway, like if this doesn't infuriate you, I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can sit with this and like anyone be like. It is not enough to just have him lose. He needs to be criminally prosecuted and charged.
There's a part of me that thinks the lab ghouls,
Exactly.
the
sex scandal over the COVID scandal. It's the same thing that happened with Cuomo.
the
Look
lockdown.
what happened with Cuomo.
Yeah, no.
Cuomo killed thousands of all the old grannies in New York here.
Yeah.
And no one said anything about it. But as soon as he got caught in a fucking sex scandal, then he got canceled.
With safe and effective jabs.
With safe and effective jabs. They're perfectly safe and fine. So it's like
they were all
it's fury.
I'm sorry. I was just
absolutely.
I remember that guy. That guy had mass murdering farms, putting everybody into freaking old folks' homes, and he kept his job.
Yeah,
it's fucking wild, man. There's almost a thing
where he did the same exact thing, and he still has a job. He's doing fine. He just broke a college strike 2 months ago.
Who's worse, the lockdown simps or the COVID simps?
They're both the same thing. Because if you don't say anything with it, you have to stay in line with the narrative. If you're not in the narrative, then you're out. If you step one line out of the narrative, you are out. If you say anything about the lockdown,
think everybody who's like 4 jabs deep, 5 jabs deep,
you're anti-vax. Say that again.
You think people who are 4 or 5 jabs deep are gonna? You think everybody who's taken a bunch of jabs are gonna feel the same way about lockdowns?
So I think that there's a segment of people who are, pro COVID vaccine and who also look back at the lockdowns with some, hey, yeah, maybe we fucked up there. I think there's some people who are definitely willing to concede that. Definitely not enough. Because we're all bought into this fucking.
Because I see maybe more from like the international discourse, like people like. I don't know. It's even hard to say at this point, but I would almost say like I know, unfortunately, people like Ben Norton was huge in the jabs and didn't really talk too much about the lockdowns themselves. There are people like who's that fucker on Twitter?
Well, you know what it is? Like, I think people like. I think saying lockdowns were good is like almost like an indefensible position now because there's so much overwhelming evidence to the contrary that it's like it's almost like ridiculous to say at this point. Like I think people are willing to concede, like, yeah, maybe we fucked up on the lockdown thing, but the jabs are great. We love the jabs. The jabs saved America and they saved the world. God bless Fauci. So
yeah,
let's.
But I may say, and if I may say so. I am profoundly sorry for the impact that had. I'm profoundly sorry for each death that has occurred. And I also understand why, for some, it will be hard to take that apology from me. I understand that. I get it. But it is honest and heartfelt. And I'm not very good at talking about my emotions and how I feel, but that is honest and true, and all I can do is ensure that this inquiry gets to the bottom of it and that for the future we learn the right lessons so that we stop a pandemic in its tracks much, much earlier, and that we have the systems in place ready to do that. Because I'm worried that they're being dismantled as we speak.
Yeah, you know what he means by that? He means we should have shut down faster and harder. That's his apology. Sorry. We should have done
and you still hear from lockdown fanatics, oh, we never had lockdowns, or they weren't real.
Yeah, like
lockdowns.
they were in real lockdowns. Like you lost your fucking job. Like you couldn't walk into any. Like what are you?
And we're seeing people on Twitter now who are saying, "Oh, if you tried to say that there were lockdowns that or like you could lose your job, that's just not true." Like you've seen that stuff on Twitter the last few days. There's definitely a fucking psyop going around where they're trying to say that we were never told that we had to get the jab. You know. Meanwhile, I see stuff like military still has to get the jab. I was looking at something earlier. There are still colleges that make you get the jab.
Like, oh yeah, my sister had to get boosted. My sister goes to school in Boston. She has to get her booster.
What?
Yes, she had to get the third booster to live in the dorms. It is insane.
Did you tell her not to do it?
I think she got a medical exemption. So like thankfully my parents are like, they're kind of close to the truth on this thing. So they're like, maybe it's not, we don't want it because this was like just like last year.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, no, that I think my parents tried to get her like a religious exemption or something. Something ridiculous.
But it doesn't matter.
It works. No, it works. You can get exemptions but it's still crazy that like they're doing.
Yeah, dude. It's still the same.
Britain must prepare for wider, earlier, and more stringent lockdowns in the face of future pandemics. Keep this word in mind: future pandemics. There's another one coming, folks. Just you wait. Matt Hancock has claimed the former health secretary told the COVID inquiry that failing to plan for restrictions on civil liberties was a flaw in the government's woefully inadequate pandemic strategy. Mr. Hancock, who was in office from 2018 to 2021, said that even before COVID in 2020, he thought that it was an oversight not to consider lockdowns during the pandemic. What? It is insane. Completely safe and effective. 100%. Like he made the claim despite mounting evidence that lockdown has caused more harm than the pandemic itself. From soaring child mental referrals to a cancer bomb of patients whose treatment was delayed alongside a struggling economy. David Dice criticized his former cabinet colleague, saying lockdowns were ill-conceived.
Just doubling down, motherfuckers.
Based on science. They include this video of Boris Johnson from 2020, and this is when the virus just dropped, and it's very chilling to hear this now.
Oh my god!
Listen, Matt Hancock is currently working for Boris Johnson while he's saying this. Pay attention.
Good evening. The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades, and this country is not alone. All over the world, we're seeing the devastating impact of this invisible killer. And so tonight, I want to update you on the latest steps we're taking to fight the disease and what you can do to help. And I want to begin by reminding you why the UK has been taking the approach that we have. Without a huge national effort to halt the growth of this virus, there will come a moment when no health service in the world could possibly cope, because there won't be enough ventilators, enough intensive care beds, enough doctors and nurses. And as we've seen elsewhere in other countries that also have
it's always the ventilators and the hospital beds.
I'm biting my tongue.
It's so infuriating.
That is the moment of real danger. To put it simply, if too many people become seriously unwell at one time, the NHS will be unable to handle it, meaning more people are likely to die, not just from coronavirus, but from other illnesses as well. So it's vital to slow the spread of the disease, because that is the way we reduce the number of people needing hospital treatment at any one time, so we can protect the NHS's ability to cope and save more lives. And that's why we've been asking people to stay at home during this pandemic. And though huge numbers are complying, and I thank you all, the time has now come for us all to do more. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. Because
Stay
the
at home.
critical thing we must do to stop the disease spreading
Stay
between
home.
households.
Don't go outside.
That is why people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes. Shopping
this.
for basic necessities as infrequently as possible. One form of exercise a day, for example, a run, walk, or cycle, alone or with members of your household.
Can you imagine that? Can you fucking imagine that? The only time you're allowed to go outside is one run a day, one walk or a jog a day, and only with your family members.
So
It is fucking crazy.
I'm now listening to this stuff under the assumption that they knew about it already, and it's even more chilling. Like listening to it, thinking that they're like
Yes,
listening.
they know
they're doing the
what
like
they're
the
doing this
WEF
entire
agenda,
time.
and like assuming that they're like trying, like they already knew that the 15-minute cities were coming down the line, and they're like, all right, we need to find out how well we can control millions upon millions of people and how well they'll listen to us. And this is the kind of stuff that they were doing, and he's just like obeying orders.
Oh yeah,
like
and it's coming again, folks.
fucking, it's way scarier when it's cynical like that.
Oh yeah, and Nick Rivera put a point, like he said he was convinced like this was just a dry run.
Yep.
Get ready for round two, because just last week the WHO held a meeting with a bunch of countries and signed a WHO treaty. There's basically only like a couple countries who are like, hey, maybe we shouldn't give WHO all these powers. But according to Dr. Bell, the two agreements that is currently drafted will hand the WHO the authority to order measures including significant financial contributions by individual states, censorship of scientific debate, lockdowns, travel restrictions, forced medical examinations, and mandatory vaccinations during a public health emergency of its own declaring. Whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, giving
the keys to Tedros and Bill Gates.
Oh yeah, and all these countries, they're just giving it away. They're just handing the key. Oh yeah, hey, yes, thank you WHO. Here, take the keys to the kingdom. You deserve it. You are our only savior of hope. You're the only way that we could get saved from this. I'm trying to watch my words here. I'm trying not to say it was. But you get the point.
We all get the point.
No, but like we already know that like there's already in this run there was already no debate. There was never a debate. They already know that in these WhatsApp messages that he plotted to aid to basically remove funding from Tory MPs and a bunch of like these other like medical centers because the lockdown. Let's watch this.
Is what Matt Hancock would say. The context is we're not taking that into consideration this morning.
No debate allowed. No debate allowed.
Give us that.
Yeah, well, this looks like another insight into what at times seem to be the rather unsightly politics going on behind the scenes of some of the big moments in the pandemic. This goes back to December 2020, when the country was about to go into the tier system, which, if you remember, was different levels of COVID restrictions for different parts of the country. And Matt Hancock, Health Secretary at the time, and his aide had a list of MPs who were considering voting against that legislation in Parliament, their reasons why, and their likelihood of rebelling. And they appear to be discussing ways to get them on side with the help of the Whips, which is the group of MPs responsible for persuading their colleagues to vote with the government. And the aide, Alan Nixon, appears to suggest a way to get one particular MP, James Daly, to vote with the government. Now, he says James wants his learning disability hub in Bury. Whips call him up and say health team want to work with him to deliver this, but that'll be off the table if he rebels. Matt Hancock replies, yes, 100%. Now, James Daly, who apparently was concerned about the effect on pubs in his constituency and incidentally has one of the smallest majorities of any sitting MP, says in the end he was never contacted by the whips and the threat was never made. But he's told The Telegraph he is appalled and disgusted that this was even discussed as a way to get him to vote with the government. And there is another MP on that list who's also spoken out, Jake Berry, a senior Conservative former party chairman, who's tweeted, "This is an absolute disgrace. Hancock should be dragged to the bar of the House of Commons first thing tomorrow morning to be questioned on this."
It wasn't just him either. It was also let me share this right here. The Jeremy Farrar. You open up my screen report. We have to do something about Farrar. Can we fire him? This is completely unacceptable. And people are pissed. Let me show this here. They have, outside of this COVID inquiry, which is basically like I described earlier. Essentially, what they want to do is the Telegraph has possession of all 10,000 of these WhatsApp messages that give us vital information on what these fucking goons were doing early on in this pandemic. It provides a shit ton of insight. Like I said, rep a free trial of the Telegram, read the whole thing. It's not that long, but you know, it's valuable read, honestly. Here's UK families calling Hancock a murderer in his face.
Good.
People are pissed. They are pissed.
The kind of shit people should be doing outside the fucking White House. Fucking outside Pelosi's house. Pelosi's house.
And as you can expect, the whole thing was filled with just excuses after excuse after excuse. Here is the former Prime Minister of Scotland.
I don't know. I don't know where the leak came from. Not to the best of my recollection. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
If you want to know how it went, don't even watch the whole thing.
Whether that was something we considered. I do not know. I'm not aware that I am making assumptions here, and I do not recall anything. I don't remember. I am not aware of. My recollection of the conversation with Jeff is not as vivid as I wish it was. I can't recall. Remember if he told me the name. I can't remember the exact phraseology of it. I can't recall, and I would need to check. I can't remember if that's the technical term. And I don't have a recollection. I don't recall. If memory serves me correctly, I may be getting the 1 and 2 round the wrong way here. I can't tell you. I don't know of anything that was that. I can't recall all the ins and outs of this. Would have to check the precise dates here. I'd have to check the detail. I cannot sit here and say definitively that none of that happened. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you exactly on what day. I didn't know. I am not in possession at this point and all the information. I don't know. I don't have the dates of that.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not 100%.
She doesn't want her WhatsApp. She doesn't want those WhatsApp messages in there.
Sure. I can't give you specific answers to that.
They don't have all Matt Hancock's messages. They want
right now. I don't know.
Boris Johnson, as far as I know, gave away all of all the WhatsApp messages willingly. So.
I'm not. Can't immediately recall exactly what it said. I don't know. I didn't know for certain. I didn't know it was certain. I didn't remember this meeting. And I asked myself, how could I have, forgotten that? I don't know. So I don't know. I don't recall. Trying to think. When was it I found out about this? I can't remember. I don't know. What I don't recall is.
At least we know that fucking shitty lawyers are really consistent across the West in how to prep their fucking lying freaking politicians.
She was actually shut down earlier today by. She went off on this weird tangent about Brexit. She got really owned.
I think every aspect of Brexit has been false economy, if I can put it mildly, but that's another issue altogether.
Miss Sturgeon, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
that is a witness box, not a soapbox.
Indeed.
We cannot.
It's a witness box, not a soapbox.
The political debate of Brexit
Indeed.
to be ventilated here.
I think every aspect of Brexit has been falsely.
It was all just deflecting blame, excuses, and I don't know. I just can't happen to recall 50 times. And I just to strike down the point again on the level of how much they're doing to crush down on dissent. This was right outside. Police arresting people for swearing in public.
He has no legal right to do that. See, that's his remit. See the steps over there. That's his remit.
Madam, here's your warning.
Have you
Swear
been
again.
coerced?
Swear again, you're going to get arrested.
Again.
Simple. Okay.
Well, fuck you.
Okay.
Fuck you.
He's actually going to get arrested.
Joking. You are joking.
They're actually
You are joking.
It's a bit heavy.
Necessity for arrest is for prompt.
Granted, this is not the free speech America.
It doesn't matter.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. No,
they just wanted to get her out of the fucking protest.
Fuck the UK police either way, but like, Jesus Christ, for swearing in public? Can you imagine?
This is the UK. How dare you? How dare you arrest me for swearing when I'm talking about millions across the world will be dying from the gene therapies? And this guy, 25 years old, took his own life during July 2020. Ben took his own life during the July lockdown. It's murder. The government is guilty of murder. So, seriously, you're arresting me?
That lady said some.
No, you are joking. This is a joke.
That is,
as I said, you're under arrest for possession by public order. I've given you a warning not to swear in public. You've then started shouting every swear word in front of me.
I haven't.
In front of multiple people. It's all on camera.
I haven't.
It's all on camera. I gave you a fair warning. You didn't want to listen. You wanted to prove a point.
I just cannot believe that
you're
you're
under
doing
arrest
this.
for
I
possession
cannot
by
believe
public
you're
order.
doing this.
Arrest is for prompt and effective investigation.
Can I call my lawyer?
You can speak to a solicitor when we
I
get to
will
custody.
do.
Yep, that's not a problem.
Hang on a minute. Have you read me my rights? No, hang on a minute.
So,
yeah, you get it absolute bonkers shit going on in UK right now. All I can say is thank God for the Telegraph. They're usually shitty, but they happen to be good on this. And the UK for pushing back on this and fighting and calling these guys, righteously so, murderers to their fucking faces.
We're starting to see.
That's what they were. You heard her say, he committed suicide during the lockdown in 2021. It's murder. It is murder. It is state mandated murder. Stay inside, go insane, only once a day for what? A quick jog, only with your family.
Yeah, I remember there was.
Get ready for pandemic 2, folks.
But some asshole's ready to tell you that's not a real lockdown because you could go for a jog.
Yeah, that's what the real could be.
Like, no, if you're not getting a little fucking treadmill shipped to your home and doing Wii Fit, it's not a lockdown.
But that's what they're saying. That's basically what they're saying. He said, I'm sorry. I feel like we should have locked down harder and sooner. And that's their plan. They think that's a better idea, is to do it harder.
It's the guy I was thinking about earlier. Like you remember Walter Bragman, who's on Twitter all the time? Still, like 3 years later, going mental about the freaking lockdowns. Still.
So insane. And we had Scott Atlas and the Great Barrington Declaration, who for since the day in 2020, they were involved with the Trump administration in trying to get this shit to stop because they knew all the damage that these lockdowns were going to cause, and they did it anyway because they gave it to the states, and the states, it was all became a contest between the red states who were shut down, and they went through it. All the blue states, they decided to lock up as fast as hard as they could.
Do you remember after a while? I remember seeing this a lot. It became a meme at one point where the only where you'd see people go to huge rallies or concerts or stuff like that, and people thought it was going to be a super spreader event at a Trump rally, and nobody got sick.
yeah. Well, that's what we have with this Partygate stuff too. Like they didn't get COVID until like one of them, a lot of them didn't get COVID, but one of them got COVID like much later on. This Partygate shit that happened like in the
I remember that too, but
it was funny. It's just funny and shameless, and just like she's like it shows like how they like think about us. This one last thing, like Matt Hancock, remember. He uses the words wanted to frighten the pants off of everyone during the pandemic. This is his words, Matt Hancock. We frightened the pants off everyone with the new strain, and just the complication with the Brexit is taking the top line. When do we deploy the new variant?
What?
Okay. I don't know what that means.
What?
I don't know what that means. But
oh my god,
they're gonna deploy the new variant. What does that mean?
We can't.
So they
I
can
mean,
just
we
do
can
it whenever
speculate
they
on
want.
that, but
no, honestly, someone answered that. They want to frighten the pants off everyone with the new strain. When do we deploy it?
I don't want to get this channel taken. Get another suspension.
Okay, all right.
I think anybody who's kind of clued in and listened to this channel probably already knows what we're thinking. But
yeah, of course.
We were actually talking about this earlier today. Is that like I'm starting to see, especially with that article that just came out and also in the EU, new variant safe and effective. It hasn't even come out yet, but we already know it's safe and effective.